What does social studies mean to you? When I think back to my elementary school experiences in social studies, I think about hands-on, engaging, and fun activities. I think about living in that moment and experiencing what the pioneers, the knights, and the ancient Romans experienced. So how could we connect the pieces and become the social studies teacher we aspire to be? Well, for me, using stories, engaging activities will connect students on an emotional level, which will allow them to enhance the goals, visions, and citizen framework of social studies. Let me give you an example. Imagine we're in a grade 4 classroom and we are focusing on heritage and identity in early societies. I'm going to choose ancient Egypt because from past experiences, students enjoy learning about pharaohs, pyramids, hieroglyphs, and we can't forget the famous King Tut. I also want to make sure I'm meeting our vision, which ensures students are able to develop problem-solving skills and are able to communicate ideas and decisions about events and issues. Our goals must also be met, which are for students to understand the diversity within global communities, both past and present. Understanding the citizen framework will allow me as a teacher to aim for active participation in class, students to self-identify, learning structures and systems within society, and gain personal attributes. But we can't stop right there. We have to apply the concepts of disciplinary thinking and use the inquiry process and spatial skills to get our big ideas and framed questions, which then provide context for our overall expectations and specific expectations, and then we get responsible, active citizens. Okay, so you're probably wondering how I would put all of these into play. First of all, any good class starts with a good first impression. So I would have to set up my classroom that will trigger curiosity and grab the students' interest. My class would include a decorated entrance so students feel like they're entering into ancient Egypt. Throughout the unit, we would build the hieroglyphs together into this entrance. The walls would be decorated with pyramids of Egypt that we can label throughout the unit, and the classroom would be surrounded by everyone's names written in hieroglyphs. As we progress through the unit, students will recreate themselves into a pharaoh and make masks that they can display around the classroom. This unit would be a perfect cross-curricular with art. So at this point, students have a general idea about what ancient Egypt looks like, but how do we get them to think critically about it? In other words, how do we develop the concepts of disciplinary thinking and get them to use the inquiry process and spatial skills throughout? Well, if we look at the grade 4 overview in the curriculum documents, we could focus on interrelationships in geography and use a map of ancient Egypt. Visuals are always a great start to any inquiry process. The inquiry skills I would emphasize in my teaching are to ask questions, make observations and predictions, and make inferences. Therefore, it is important that students are able to formulate questions, gather and interpret data, and last, they must be able to draw conclusions. This here is a great teaching resource called The Legacies of Ancient Egypt by David Scott. It comes with many resources that you can use, such as a map, like I suggested earlier, as well as some activities, such as assessing prior knowledge and comparing life in Egypt to Canada. I definitely recommend looking into this resource if you plan on teaching ancient Egypt. As we progress through the unit, I as a teacher will constantly push for students to question what they learn and to conduct research on that topic. From past experiences, we had to choose an Egyptian god that interested us the most and do extensive research on them, which we later then presented. My group, we ended up doing a play where we each dressed up as an Egyptian god and acted out the life of Osiris. So, as a final cumulative project, I think this would be a great idea. Students could focus their research on the early societies of ancient Egypt and will be given the option from the following. 1. Use an interactive map and show the relationship ancient Egyptians had with the environment, and we can see this in A3.1. So they can talk about agriculture or the Egyptian calendar. 2. Demonstrate visual evidence, paintings, carvings, artifacts, or masks that can tell us about the daily lives of ancient Egyptians. This is taken from A3.2. Students can talk about amulets, masks of the dead, or wall paintings. 3. Describe the architectural development of ancient Egypt, as seen in A3.6. This is where they can talk about engineering techniques of building pyramids or simply building boats. And 4. Demonstrate how the ancient Egyptians were governed by Egyptian gods, which is taken from A3.7, and they can choose from one or more Egyptian gods of their choice. Students will be split into groups and can choose to present a play, just like how my group did, or they can do a poster, a pamphlet, an art project, create a game, or if there's enough technology to go around, they can present it using a program of their choice. So, what kind of social studies teacher do I aspire to be? One that creates real-life experiences, making activities fun and engaging, and pushes students to ask questions and seek answers. Social studies should always be enjoyable because it is one of the few subjects that allows students to explore outside of their own world. So, let's become that teacher that makes these little minds grow beyond this world.